would have had some success and you were pretty happy and content where you were. But life has its ways of turning around and, you know, doing things that we least expect, doesn't it? Especially when it comes to writing music, and you seem to have that ability to, like some other musicians, where something happens and you go, okay, I'm going to write about this, or you put it into a song to explain your feelings or your emotions, you know, all that sort of stuff goes into that thing. Now, we're coming to the Wild and Free album. Now, this one here, again, is another album that I've really enjoyed. I suppose I like all Vanessa's music, but this one here, and in particular a song that did extremely well. Most of your music has done pretty good, songs have charted, whether it be in Australia, USA, Europe, but this one, we'll start with the album itself.
Yes.
Now, what period of time did you actually start thinking about writing or putting together another album for this one called Wild and Free?
Okay, so the album was actually released 4 years ago today. That's an easy one for me to remember. So 4 years ago today was 2017. And so it took me about 3 weeks to write all the songs for the album, and I wrote them over the Christmas holidays. I was thinking about the album because, you know, like we'd done the Runaway album in 2015. This was a couple years later, and partly some of the songs got written was because we actually wanted to have more originals in our set when we were playing, you know, touring and stuff like that. And we wanted some more sort of bluesy, sort of swampy, rootsy, sort of feel-good songs. So some of those songs really came out of my desire to increase the fun songs that we were performing. And yeah, I think I wrote most of the songs within 3 weeks. The only song that came from a previous period of time on that album is actually Good Advice. Believe it or not, that was a song I wrote during the contemporary music performance back in 1986.
Wow.
It was my jazz song, and Mike and I just seemed to click with it, with the guitars, and it was a very cruisy one to play. Our audiences really enjoyed it. So yeah, it fitted with the theme of the album. And the thing about the Wild and Free album was it was actually a concept album. Okay. So I came up with the idea of what I wanted the album to be called before I'd actually put the album together, and then from there created, okay, so what would the songs feel like that would belong on this album, and did like a little chart on a piece of paper, and at the end of the album basically I had every sort of theme covered that I had wanted to write about. But you know, like Rainy Day, I remember writing that one, and it was so hot and we were really hanging out for it to rain. And you know, when it's so hot like that and it's summer in Australia, and all you can do is you just crave the rain and you just wish it would rain, and you just want to go run outside and dance in the rain. If it would come, please come and rain. And so that was the crux of that song. It really came from my desire. I just wished it would rain.
A complete opposite to what it was actually doing outside.
Yes.
So Wild Wind Blows? Was it actually blowing?
No, but that's not like you thought. But I did write, yeah, there were a lot of weather related songs, and I think that was part of what I was going for. Wild and Free meant, you know, letting loose, pushing boundaries as far as letting my hair down, kind of thing, with the album.
Okay.
Well, I mean, of course, it's a metaphor for life as well. Because
well,
I was actually in the middle of getting divorced, so I was like letting my hair down with becoming this new person that I was. But you know, the storm. I wrote the storm actually watching a storm coming in, and the song was just sort of in my mind as I was watching this amazing storm come through when it finally did rain. And yeah, so that's how that song came about.
That's amazing. Yeah, and you know, we go back to the fact that so many things, it doesn't necessarily have to do with the elements outside. It can be our own internal, what's going on with us.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
So when you see like Feels So Good.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another great sort of upbeat kind of a song. And of course we'll get to Live for Today as well.
Yes.
One of the other ones that, you know, inspires people, And for those out there, I present a couple of shows at 2REM Community Radio here in Albury, New South Wales, and there are a few songs that I get more requests for, and one of them is actually not only Wild Child, which we'll talk about in a minute, but Live for Today. And you're getting through your album here, and I'm looking at it, and it's got like Wild Wind Blows, Time to Let Loose, Good Advice, Everything to Me, Feels So Good, The Storm, Raw, Rainy Day, No Tomorrow, Wild Child, and then Live for Today. So you've gone and set it out as that. The songs just, like me, when I set my music up, I get that flow going.
Yes.
Is that how the album stood out for you when you got to that one? You finally said, hey, we've got to live for today? Or is that
Live for Today was actually one of the very last songs I wrote for the album.
Okay.
And it just happened that I had some bad news. And I was quite disappointed because I'd been on such a high. And so I thought, no, I'm going to write a song to make me feel good right now. And also because I just want to live for today, and I don't want to sort of go down into those feelings that make me feel sad and miserable. So I sat down and wrote Live for Today. Now, Mike hadn't actually played it before we got to the recording studio. No. And Michael Carpenter had heard just what I'd recorded on my phone. But the whole arrangement was exactly what I created, and that was on my phone. And so we had a lot of fun creating how that song was going to go. Because, pretty much, and one other song which we created in the studio, pretty much every song, Mike and I had been playing it for some time before we got into the recording studio. So then it was a case of the producer, which is Michael Carpenter, saying where he wanted to tweak certain songs, like he mightn't have wanted Michael to sing backing vocals on a song, or he didn't want me to repeat a chorus. And even like No Tomorrow, he actually wanted me to rewrite the bridge, so I did that while we were in the studio, like 5 minutes before we went to record the bridge. So yeah, Live for Today got created in the studio in terms of how was that kind of song play out. And I just absolutely love what we did. We did a video, of course. And
yes.
Mike's daughter and my son were involved and ended up singing backing vocals on the video, and it was just really cool because they'd been in the studio the whole time with us and hadn't really done much except sit there and play on their gadgets. And so I went, no, let's get them singing backing vocals on this one, so they did. And the other song that I just touched on was actually it's not called No, it is Nothing to Give, which was the song I wrote in the USA, and I hadn't let anybody hear it. And then, except one friend, and I'd been, I don't know if this belongs on this album or not, and then this friend said to me, you know what, I think you should put it on because it's going to really appeal to somebody. Whether it fitted within the Wild and Free theme, possibly. And I was so blown away by the beautiful guitar that Mike and Michael created in the studio, that it actually became one of my most special moments about recording the album. And even now I love listening to what they've done. I think you just got to trust the music's going to come out, how it needs to come out.
Yes, and just go with the flow.
Yes.
I guess, as well. But you want to also be sure. And I think that's the feeling that you kind of got with this album. Now, again, we're going to point out a few things about this particular album, Wild and Free. It did extremely well everywhere.
Yes.
Can you tell us just briefly about the success of some of the... Did all the songs, was there particular songs that stood out across the charts, or was it...
Well, Feel So Good charted and in Australia, and so did Rainy Day, Live for Today, of course.
Yes.
And Wild Child was probably one of my biggest successes from the album, in that it went to number 2 in Europe. And, it was pivotal in having me bring out my next album, as you might be aware. Wild Child, I think, is one of those songs that I really pushed my boundaries as a writer and as a singer. And the funny thing is, my experience so far with songwriting is that any time I push the envelope of what I believe is giving more than what I would have expected myself to do in a song, those are the ones that are really successful. Like Moon Blues, I was really pushing the envelope with that. Wild Child, I pushed the envelope. It is raunchy. Some people were shocked that I would sing that. It took a lot of guts to get up and sing that. But, I think that song for me was influenced by Bob Seger. And I went, you know what, if Bob Seger can sing all these raunchy numbers and he's an old man, you know, I can sing Wild Child and have it be, you know, awesome and edgy and a bit rocky, and everybody wants to feel nostalgic about someone they loved.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's a common theme through very successful songs, so I purposely wrote the song that way. But it's funny because you just don't know how a song's going to go. Raw, for example, which for me I always played on that word raw. Katy Perry had a song called Raw, R-O-A-R. Everybody knows it. You just say, oh, the song Raw, and they think of Katy Perry.
Yes.
But I went for a song called Raw, R-A-W, which is a different meaning. And it was picked up by a magazine who created their own video of it. They interviewed me, and they made a little video. It was like 30 seconds. It got over 20,000 views on Twitter.
Oh, wow.
And they were like a religious magazine.
Oh.
And I would never have thought the lyrics were that way inclined, but when you took certain lyrics out of the chorus, you could see why it appealed to them so much. But you'll have to go and have a listen to it to see if you can work that out.
Now, this album too, you were mentioning music videos before.
Yes.
Now, how many music videos did you do with this album in particular, with the songs? Was there only a few?
We only did Live for Today, actually. So with Runaway we did Long Gone and Moon Blues, and with this album we just did Live for Today, which we did in the studio.
Runaway?
Yeah.
Okay. You can view these all on YouTube, by the way, folks. So jump on YouTube and you can actually watch the music videos or on your website.
You can go to Instagram TV or you can go to my website, VanessaDelaine.com, and view them all, yes.